A single brain scan changed everything for Dr. David Schreiber, the neuropsychiatrist who discovered his own glioblastoma, one of the most lethal cancers known to medicine. What he did next gave him 19 extra years of life when he should have had only months. So what foods should you be eating to genuinely reduce your cancer risk? And which everyday foods might actually be damaging your cells right now and increasing your chances of developing cancer? Today we're diving deep into the real connection between what you eat and cancer. From antioxidants to so-called miracle foods, soy, GMOs, and whether organic or vegetarian diets actually deliver on their promises. Everything you'll hear is backed by scientific studies tracking tens of thousands of people. And if you've got a story about your uncle who smoked like a chimney, ate raw meat daily, and lived to be 150, drop it in the comments. Those stories make this conversation richer for everyone. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll give you only information you can actually trust. I'm Dr. Mitchell. Let me tell you more about Dr. Schreiber. During a routine MRI scan, he discovered a tumor that should have killed him within months. Glioblastoma doesn't negotiate. But after surgery and standard treatment, David made a crucial decision. He was going to do something more to help his body heal, not instead of treatment, but alongside it. He completely redesigned his lifestyle, and those changes gave him 19 more years. That's extraordinary for this diagnosis. He wrote the bestseller, Anti-Cancer, dedicating much of it to nutrition. And I believe many of today's food as medicine ideas trace directly back to his work. Preparing this video meant wading through mountains of material, and honestly, most of it just slaps anti-cancer labels on foods without any real evidence. Somehow, broccoli, garlic, and onions became the holy trinity of cancer prevention. I suspect someone's trying to make us eat foods we don't particularly enjoy by promising they'll wage war on tumors inside us. When you try to make sense of all the anti-cancer nutrition advice out there, you find several competing theories. First, there's the anti-angiogenic camp. Foods containing substances that supposedly slow blood vessel growth, starving cancer of what it needs to expand. They point to phytonutrients like those in soy and claim that just 10 grams daily will choke off tumor blood supply and make malignancies disappear. Obviously, that's not how it works. Once a tumor has formed, 10 grams of soy won't stop it from growing or building its vascular network. Here's what's fascinating about anti-angiogenic substances, though. When pharmaceutical companies developed actual anti-angiogenic drugs, real registered medications for treating certain cancers, they discovered something nobody expected. Tumors adapt. You can watch my previous video about how tumors outsmart drugs and immune systems. When you hit a tumor with anti-angiogenic therapy, it evolves. It produces cell clones that don't bother building extensive blood vessel networks. Instead, they focus on rapid metastasis. The tumor essentially says, "You won't let us build blood vessels? Fine. We'll just spread throughout your body. We don't need many vessels for that." The second popular idea involves cruciferous vegetables, preventing benign tumors from turning malignant. There's a well-known nutrition advocate making videos about plant-based foods and phytonutrients. Some of his content is genuinely valuable. But his claim that cruciferous vegetables can stop this transition, it falls apart under scrutiny. The notion that phytonutrients in broccoli and kale can halt cellular transformation is extraordinary. Some versions of this theory add that cancer cells can't grow without food and blood supply. So if you stop feeding them sugar and start eating these vegetables instead, you'll prevent disaster. The only part of this message I completely agree with is the conclusion. Eat more plant-based foods and you'll be healthier. That's absolutely solid advice. Just don't expect tumors to dissolve because you ate broccoli. Next, antioxidants. These are substances that combat oxidative stress. As our bodies metabolize energy, They constantly produce ionic compounds called free radicals, unstable molecules hunting for electrons to steal, trying to oxidize whatever they can grab. Antioxidants work against this oxidation process and supposedly have anti-cancer effects. There are actually studies supporting this, and we're talking about accessible things like green tea, coffee, citrus fruits, and vitamins like vitamin C and niacin, which do have definite antioxidant effects that may help prevent malignant growth. That's hard to dispute. But understand this is about prevention, absolutely not treatment. If cancer has already developed, antioxidants won't cure it. And when I say niacin, I'm not talking about tobacco. I mean consuming a specific nutrient you can get from food. It's found in citrus peels and nuts, and that's how you should be getting it. The fourth theory claims that inflammation underlies all cancer. So anti-cancer eating means choosing anti-inflammatory foods while avoiding ones that trigger inflammation. But here's where it's crucial not to confuse cause and effect. Inflammatory processes can lead to tumors, not the other way around. For example, chronic inflammation around a dental filling that constantly irritates gum tissue may eventually spawn a tumor cell in that inflamed area. If someone smokes and constantly bathes their bronchial epithelium in nicotine, chronic inflammation develops, and after enough cell divisions, mutations can occur. But once cancer has formed, inflammation isn't driving the cancer. Only when a tumor grows massive and starts breaking down might inflammation appear. And at that point, no anti-inflammatory foods will help. The next concept ties directly to immunity, that certain foods strengthen your immune system. But we need to understand that immunity is an incredibly complex system. In medicine, we distinguish between humoral immunity and cellular immunity. One involves substances your body produces to fight foreign invaders. The other involves specialized cells that attack these threats. It's a staggeringly intricate mechanism involving thousands of enzymatic reactions. So the idea that eating garlic with its flavonoids will significantly boost your immunity and anti-cancer defenses. I have to disappoint all the believers. Even if you're adding a tiny amount of some beneficial flavonoid, don't forget, there are countless other factors constantly lowering your immunity. You might eat 2 pounds of garlic but sleep poorly, and whatever anti-cancer benefit you imagined is completely wiped out. I especially love people who follow healthy eating meticulously, but smoke, thereby completely destroying any benefit from their careful nutrition. The fungal theory might be my favorite. The idea that onions and garlic prevent fungal overgrowth in your intestines, sinuses, everywhere, reducing inflammation, improving your lipid profile, preventing atherosclerosis, and helping control weight. With onions and garlic, I won't argue much, because these really are remarkably beneficial vegetables loaded with phytonutrients. Onions literally saved sailors from scurvy, which killed them by the dozens. They genuinely rescued sailors from vitamin C deficiency. Most people assume oranges are vitamin C champions, but compare the actual content in onions versus oranges, and you'll see a massive difference. Nobody disputes that onions and garlic are beneficial. But claiming they're powerful antifungal agents, that's outdated at best. We don't treat infections, strep throat, or other inflammatory processes with onion poultices or garlic compresses anymore. We take antibiotics and everything clears up. That's modern medicine. In the 16th century, sure, people applied plantain leaves to wounds or gargled with salt water. Now, we have better options. So even if you believe the fungal theory of cancer, don't imagine onions and garlic fight fungi more effectively than actual antifungal medications. By the way, if you're choosing between baking soda and onions as antifungal weapons, I'd definitely pick onions and garlic. So if fungi causing cancer is your theory, go with the vegetables. If we combine all these theories and their recommendations, we get roughly this list. Vegetables, especially cruciferous ones: ginger, onions, garlic; aromatic herbs, particularly parsley and rosemary, mushrooms like oyster and shiitake, though honestly, any mushrooms work. I'd personally suggest porcini and brown cap boletes, which are easier to find around here than shiitake, and I guarantee they're just as beneficial. Next, carotene-rich, brightly colored vegetables and fruits. Orange, red, yellow, green. Green tea, olive oil, flaxseed, nuts, turmeric, fish like sardines, mackerel, salmon, fish liver with its fatty acids, seaweed, and natural dairy products. I look at this list, and you know what I see? The classic Mediterranean diet. Research definitively proves that people following Mediterranean eating patterns develop cancer far less frequently, along with cardiovascular disease, and nutrition is absolutely the reason. The Mediterranean diet emphasizes seafood over red meat. People in these regions consume generous amounts of olive oil. Their plates are loaded with fresh vegetables and fruits. Before you object that modern vegetables aren't what they used to be, fruits aren't the same. Nothing's natural anymore. Let me stop you. Studies have compared organic vegetables and fruits grown on farms without GMOs, using only natural fertilizers, versus those grown by conventional modern methods. And there's absolutely zero difference between these groups in cancer rates. So if you were planning to buy a country house, grow everything yourself, drive a tractor around, water plants by hand to eat your own apples, I'll save you the trouble. You'll have no advantage whatsoever compared to simply buying plenty of vegetables and fruits at your local supermarket. So it's not individual miracle foods or mysterious phytonutrients, but rather an entire eating pattern that genuinely prevents cancer. First, this pattern includes beneficial foods, vegetables, fruits, fiber. Second, this pattern excludes foods proven to increase cancer risk, like red meat, processed meat, excessive fast food, added sugar, preservatives, and similar culprits. I think we've covered Mediterranean diet foods thoroughly. Let's now examine those trigger foods that cause the most concern and controversy. Red meat. High consumption of meat generally, and specifically red meat and processed meat, plus foods with very high glycemic index, is associated with elevated risk of developing various cancers, including stomach, colon, and even breast cancer. Look at one study that tracked over 400,000 people divided into groups: meat eaters, fish eaters, vegetarians, and occasional meat eaters. Predictably, the meat-eating group had the highest cancer rates. But let's not jump to conclusions, because we can't say definitively what in the meat-eating group caused the most malignancies. Whether it's the meat itself, their higher obesity rates, and body mass index, or something else meat eaters consume that vegetarians don't. Vegetarians predictably had the lowest cancer rates, but they also had the lowest body mass index, with obesity nearly non-existent in this group. What else carries carcinogenic effects? High salt consumption doesn't just hammer your cardiovascular system. High salt intake ranks in the top 10 causes of premature death from cardiovascular disease. But beyond that, excess salt disrupts your stomach's protective mucosal barrier, allowing microbes like Helicobacter pylori to spread more aggressively. When that barrier breaks down, carcinogenic substances that inevitably enter your stomach with food can penetrate directly into your bloodstream, raising cancer risk. Ultra-processed foods also count as carcinogenic. If you scan the World Health Organization's list of carcinogens, you won't find many familiar everyday products, but perhaps the most widespread and damaging is alcohol. Multiple studies confirm alcohol's role in raising cancer risk. Now let's tackle some frankly unfounded concepts. First, cancer feeds on sugar. Therefore, an anti-cancer diet must eliminate sugar completely. I have a separate video demolishing this myth. Watch it if you haven't. Next concept: food as medicine. That diet and fasting can cure already developed cancer. This is critical to understand from today's video. Any diet, even the most beneficial Mediterranean diet packed with phytonutrients and antioxidants, can definitely reduce your risk of developing cancer. Research confirms this. But if cancer has already formed, please don't try treating it with asparagus juice. We have serious medications for that. Next concept: specialized nutrition protocols for different cancer types. I won't even pause here because this theory collapses under the slightest scrutiny. And there are ideas that everything bitter is beneficial, or everything red, or everything green, or foods eaten on Thursdays, or during a full moon. Use this simple filter. When someone tells you that everything with characteristic X is beneficial, immediately reject it and trust only evidence-based medicine. Regarding nutrition, the Mediterranean diet has genuinely proven itself as one of the most beneficial eating patterns available to any of us today. I'm grateful my channel resonates with you, so your reactions, subscriptions, and comments matter enormously. If you haven't subscribed, click now and join us. Leave a like and please share your thoughts about nutrition in the comments. Tell me about your diet, and maybe you have personal experience that supports one of the concepts I discussed today. Take care of yourselves.